So speaking of interest rates, again, we're getting good at these shoehorns. When we look at the impact that interest rates have had on the economy, one of the few positives that have come out of this, so the first time in 15 years, cash is actually offering a decent rate of return. Now we've always got to take the backdrop that cash isn't, it's not a real asset. It can offer an interest rate, it doesn't go up in value. A pound will always be a pound. So long term, it still has the same risks. Inflation is the biggest one. That if you go back to the start of time, cash is ran behind inflation. So real term, a Mars bar got more expensive and your cash didn't keep up with it. But in the very short term, cash has got some fantastic rates available. So we've seen instant access accounts, 4.5%, 4.9%, which compared to a few years ago when you were getting 0.15%, it's absolutely fantastic. And in the right situation, right hands, short-term savers, short-term objectives, it should be utilised. And quite right, if you just sat with an emergency fund of say £20,000 in the bank, you're probably getting 2% from your everyday saver, and you could be getting nearer 5 from a smaller challenger bank or one of these sort of higher savings accounts. The one caveat, and the reason I mention it though, is the personal savings allowance. Basic rate taxpayer, it's only £1,000. Actually, when you start to do the maths, you only need to have sort of £20,000 or £30,000 in cash before you start generating a taxable interest rate. So I think the use of things like premium bonds, again, not a recommendation specifically to anybody at the moment, but the use of things like premium bonds where they're tax-free, the use of cash ISAs where they're tax-free, these are the type of things that people need to be considering. Otherwise, they're going to be coming to you and looking relatively sad when they do their tax return. And I think people are shocked. People are shocked when they get their tax return back and they go, you've got interest to pay on there. And it's even worse as higher rate taxpayer, obviously, as well. So
capped at 500, aren't they?
It's not a lot. So I just think that that's probably the last point that I specifically sort of not necessarily even picked up on the budget, but just as a recommendation of where we are at the moment. The only other thing that again that sort of leads on to is there was a couple of small changes to ISAs that I alluded to at the start of this recording. Nothing particularly substantial, but it's long been needed that the ISA market was a little bit simplified, and we've got quite a lot of different ISA products out there, innovative finance, lifetime ISAs, and the government have started to make a few changes there. So what they've done is of allowing people to make multiple subscriptions to different stocks and shares ISAs in the tax year. So currently you can only do one. You can have one cash, one stocks and shares. You can now have multiple. They're also going to allow transfers from stocks and shares ISAs to other stocks and shares providers in the tax year as well. So they're listening to the market. I think in reality where financial services want to get to, a bit of like the one pension solution. They probably want a one ISA solution, a sort of simpler wrapper. But at least it's a step in the same in that direction. The only other thing I picked up within those rules was that they're moving the age of an adult cash ISA from 16 to 18 as well, which just aligns it with stocks and shares. But just a subtle change that was made in the budget. But really, for me, Dave, that was pretty much everything that was in there for financial services. So